During the 19th century, US fairs and museums featured exotic animals and human beings. One of the last humans to be exhibited was Ota Benga, a pygmy from the Belgian Congo. In the fall of 1906, thousands of visitors lined up outside the monkey cage at the Bronx Zoo to see him. Ota Benga was brought by Samuel Phillips Verner, who was a missionary in the Congo. Samuel Phillips Verner brought Ota Benga, along with some other African natives, to this country in 1904. He was hired as an agent to bring African pygmies to the St. Louis Exposition, not to visit the exhibition, but to be an exhibition. When he got to Africa, Samuel Phillips Verner met with a tribe known as the Bachelel PH, and he found that they had a pygmy in a cage as a captive, and he negotiated to purchase this pygmy, Ota Benga, for several bags of salt and a spool of brass wire.
St. Louis Post-Dispatch, June 26, 1904. From the secluded forests of the Congo region in equatorial Africa, an American clergyman, the Reverend Samuel P. Verner, is bringing to the World's Fair a company of African pygmies, the smallest members of the human race. Now, for the first time, they will set foot on the Western Hemisphere.
After that exhibit in early 1905, Samuel Phillips Verner returned to Africa to return the pygmies back to their home. Ota Benga, however, he did not fit in with the Batwa tribe, where the other pygmies were from, and his own tribe had been completely annihilated by the genocide that had been going on. So Ota Benga was completely alone and got on the boat back with Verner and came to New York in summer of 1906. At that time, Mr. Hornaday, the esteemed director of the Bronx Zoo, who was considered one of the top zoo creators in the world, came down to talk about utilizing Ota Benga in the zoo, perhaps helping him clean the cages, wash the elephants down, that sort of thing. He'd be familiar with elephants. He knew the African animals quite well. As people saw Ota Benga cleaning the cages, the zoo then discovered that people were coming not so much to see the animals, but to watch Ota Benga because he was scantily dressed and he was performing with these animals. And at one point, Mr. Hornaday decided, why not create an exhibition? There's a report that as many as 400,000 people a day went up to the zoo just to see Ota Benga. You have to understand the times a little bit. This was a time when the theory of evolution was still being hotly debated. It wasn't as broadly accepted even in the scientific community as it is today. And people were probably led to believe, by the nature of the exhibition, that this was a missing link. This was a bridge between the animals and the humans that had never been seen before.
New York Times, September 10th, 1906. Several thousand persons took the subway, the elevated, and the surface cars to the New York Zoological Park in the Bronx yesterday, and there watched Ota Benga, the Bushman, who has been put by the management on exhibition there in the monkey cage. The Bushman didn't seem to mind it, and there could be no doubt that to the majority, the joint man and monkey exhibition was the most interesting sight in the Bronx Park.
When you think of it today, it's pretty awful, and there were people back there then that thought it was pretty awful. Several ministers protested that no human being should be treated like this. The ministers did succeed in getting him out of the zoo, and finally, he was sent down to Lynchburg, Virginia. And it is there that the community tried to assist him in becoming a regular, normal American citizen.
When he was brought down to Lynchburg, he lived in my family's home. I was only 2.5, but my brother Hunter knew him well. Ota taught him how to make fishing rods, he taught him how to fish, and he would take them out in the woods, build a fire, and he would tell them stories. Ota had a little room in the house, which was so different from his forest home, so often he would sleep out in the woods. He certainly had to wear the clothes that we wore. He had to sit in a dining room table. We always ate dinner in the dining room, which was a big dining room. And I'm not sure he was happy with that. sitting at this stiff dining room with the beautiful chairs and whatnot. He didn't want to accept all of this. I think he wanted to be in his woods.
As good as the intentions of the community in Lynchburg was, and as friendly and as accommodating as they could be, Ota Benga became despondent. And one day, he decided to build a little bonfire around the edges of the town and took off his clothes and threw them in the fire. And he had borrowed a gun from one of his host families and shot himself on the vernal equinox of 1916. He said that he wanted to send his soul back to Africa. If you read some of the old history books or go way back to even ancient history and see what man does to man, you cringe. This whole experience to put him in a cage with an ape. People can hardly believe that this happened, but it did. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.